Hello and welcome, you're listening to Metal Verbalizers and I am Johan. And today I will verbalize the Swedish thrash metal band OMINUM. OMINUM in the form that they are today was officially started in 2018. And 2018 is considered the official start of OMINUM by the band itself. But the band's history is a little bit longer than that and goes as far as to around 2013. However, at that time the band was known as Shaitan. The band's influences are plenty. There are many influences in both thrash metal, of course, as well as other extreme metal genres. The most prominent genre would probably be death metal, which perhaps seems pretty obvious considering how OMINUM sounds. And if you would think about kind of a mix of both small and famous thrash, death, black metal bands from both the old school and the more new wave eras, you would probably get a pretty good idea of OMINUM's style and kind of what the band are striving for. But the band members' music preferences reach far outside of metal, with genres such as jazz, reggae, and numerous types of electronic music, etc., etc. And even though OMINUM claims that these non-metal influences might sneak in a little bit here and there, they are not like, blatantly noticeable. So even though there might be some things here and there that kind of is sneaking in a little bit there, you won't really like notice that if you're not like maybe aware of it so much. The bands seem, at least to me, to be very like mainly influenced by the kind of type of thrash metal between the years 1986, surprise surprise, to 1992. So basically very late era thrash metal without going into the new wave, which started a little bit later. They do go into the new wave as well, of course, as I mentioned earlier. They take both influence from the old school and new wave. But what I kind of mean here is to kind of get an idea of the kind of type of thrash they seem to be mostly influenced by, which to me seems to be the kind of like late era 1986 to 1992. OMINUM has described their image as kind of nothing too fancy, and by that I suppose they mean like that for example regarding their apparel, they just wear basically whatever they feel comfortable with, and they don't seem to give it much thought in regards to how they look as a band. I mean, a lot of bands, some thrash bands, but also a lot of like death metal and black metal bands usually kind of have some kind of theme also with what they're wearing and all that. But OMINUM doesn't seem to have that part. They are definitely one of these bands, it seems, that really strive for the music to be the focus point, and that the music itself should kind of speak for itself, and that the music should be the expressive factor. Their goal is also to be the heaviest thrash band possible, and they also made very sure to really emphasize heaviest. Also regarding their logo, OMINUM intentionally wanted something simple but meaningful, and also the kind of like idea that they don't want to paint themselves into one corner, so to speak, which basically means that they didn't want the logo to look like it obviously belongs to a thrash metal band, or for example that it obviously belongs to a death metal band or black metal band, etc., etc. Like they seem to want a logo that basically could belong to pretty much any type of a a heavy type of band. So it's kind of like they wanted a logo that looks like a heavy band, but they didn't want it to be so obvious like what exactly OMINUM sounds like, and I really like that. It's kind of like a logo that OMINUM has. It's like it is like that. I think that was really successful. That it looks like a heavy band, but you don't quite know exactly what to expect, which I like that a lot. Like, it's nice to know what to expect at the same time, but it is also kind of cool to have that mystery, like a logo like that kind of caught your interest, but you don't really exactly know what you're about to get, and like that kind of mystery and that kind of excitement almost, that when you actually listen to it is really cool. So I really get what OMINUM is kind of going for there, and personally I think it's great. And also when it comes to the band's album covers, if we're gonna talk a little bit about their image in the sense of album covers and such, they intend to kind of connect those to their lyrics. And their lyrics deal with subjects such as social issues, oppression, man-made horror, and warfare. They do, however, also have song lyrics with a kind of more personal touch, if you know what I mean. Such as their latest single, Epitaph, for example, which is about loss. A mindset that OMINUM has in general when they write lyrics is that they're trying to kind of put a little unique approach, and they really make sure to try to avoid kind of like old cliches, such as when it comes to thrash metal, definitely it's like stuff like beer, moshing, and Satanism, and that OMINUM doesn't want to write lyrics just for kind of like shock value, kind of like a lot of bands writing stuff about like Satanism and evil and stuff like that to kind of have that shock value, but OMINUM doesn't really like to take that approach, and that if I kind of understand it correctly is that they would rather prefer to kind of like write a little bit more deep and a little bit more meaningful lyrics, if you kind of know what I mean. However, something that OMINUM was very clear about, which I also agree with, is that they do like a lot of bands who do write lyrics like that, like beer moshing and Satanism and all that. But that OMINUM doesn't really feel that it's quite the right thing for OMINUM. And I don't know, like the kind of like musical approach that OMINUM has decided to go with, I think it kind of makes sense in regards to the lyric themes. So it's something that I also really like about OMINUM. OMINUM did release their debut full-length titled Monument not that long ago at all. And the last couple of years the band has been focusing on that album a lot. Now on the other hand, when that record has been released, the band seemed to focus on playing live as much as possible. And they are going to play shows in all kinds of places in Sweden in the coming time. And they also want to tour abroad. But that doesn't seem to be really 100% confirmed yet. But other than playing live shows in 2013, OMINUM also have plans for new music in the form of an EP. The band has described the songs on that EP as shorter, more compact, and more technical than what they've done before on stuff like the record Monument. They also referred to it as their quote, sickest music yet. So that definitely sounds very promising in my opinion. And considering how sick Monument is, I highly encourage you to keep your eyes open for this EP. And also, of course, to show up at their shows. With that being said, I believe that it's time to wrap this up. I appreciate you listening, and if you like this episode, then make sure to follow us at Metal Verbalizers, and we will make sure to keep giving you more episodes like this one. If this episode would result in you checking this band out, then please tag us and let us know. We would appreciate it a lot, and it is a great way to both support us, but more importantly, the bands that we're talking about. We will be back to you next week with another verbalization.